Fear the Walking Dead rewrite. Season 4, Episode 16, You Can't Run. This episode would begin with a black and white flashback of Rick telling him, "You're part of the world already. You belong with people. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. You're alive. Don't waste another second. Like I said, you can hide, but you can't run." And then we would cut to some point in the near future. Morgan is bleeding out in front of a church, and he appears to have blood all over his shirt, but we do not know what happened yet. And Morgan is panicking, and we notice the blood is just pouring out of his chest. Morgan is starting to panic, and we hear the sound of the dead approaching him. And the question is, how did things get this way? And then we cut to the intro. Now, after the intro, we would see Asher and a few other proctors that would be driving along on the road, and they're all on their bikes, and then they all pull over to the side of the road and block the road. And we're wondering, wait, why the hell is Asher and the proctors blocking the road? And we see Asher pull out a gun and tell everybody, get ready. Now we see Morgan and the others, and they're driving along in the RV, and you would also see driving right behind the RV is Althea in the SWAT truck with a few of the other members of the group. And John would be talking about how, you know, when they get back and be watching a movie, and you basically have Alicia that would say, we're not that far off now, we're about halfway home. And Morgan would say, that's good. Hopefully we'll have enough gas to make it back there. And June would say, hopefully the place is all right. The proctors were there. We all have to remember that. They may have taken a bunch of our supplies. They must have taken quite a bit and brought it with them. So we're probably not all that stocked up as we were when we left. And Morgan says, yeah, well, whatever they did to us, we're going to get it back. All of it. Once we find them, they should go off easily. And then out of nowhere, the RV starts getting shot at. Morgan tries to take control, but the RV is getting shot up by the proctors with machine guns. And we see Asher and a few of the other proctors, and the ones that were blocking the road are now shooting at Morgan in the RV and blocking their way. They keep firing at the RV. Morgan tries to take control, but unfortunately, they go right off the road. And as they go off the road, the RV goes down this very steep hill, and Morgan and Alicia and the others are all freaking out inside of this RV, thinking that they're going to die. And we see Asher and the others, they're still shooting at the RV as it goes down the steep hill, and then Morgan and the others crash at the bottom of the hill. But luckily the RV does not flip over, but our group is very hurt after the fall. And as you see Asher and the other proctors look proud of themselves that they just shot down the RV, they're about to go down and finish off Morgan and the others that are still left living, but then out of nowhere, Althea comes up in the SWAT vehicle and parks to the side and opens up the latch and tells everybody in the SWAT vehicle, this is gonna be loud. She points the guns towards Asher and the proctors, and she opens fire. Asher and the proctors scatter, and Asher says, oh shit! As Althea mows down a bunch of the proctors, and Asher gets shot in the leg, but does not get killed. Althea is shooting these motorcycles to shit, as well as a bunch of the proctors are going down. Althea keeps shooting the guns until she's out of ammo, and we see Asher and only two other men are still left standing. Asher's in pain from getting shot in the leg, and Asher slowly starts to get up and tries to aim his pistol towards Al in the SWAT vehicle, but he's now out of ammo. Althea grabs her machine gun and steps outside of the SWAT vehicle. We see Amelia and Joel are the ones that are still left inside of the SWAT vehicle, and they get out with Althea. Althea looks at Asher in the eyes, and she says, well, your plan was stupid. I guess you never realized when you tried to kill us that we're a little bit more calculated than that. And Althea would point her gun towards Asher's head, and Asher would say, this doesn't make a difference. You're dead as shit. You just don't see it yet. You may have won this battle, darling, but you will never win the war. That's what Proctor always said. And then she would shoot Asher in the head, and Asher has just been killed by Althea. Althea would look slightly traumatized after what she just did, but then she would quickly snap out of it when she hears Amelia say, Morgan? And you would see Morgan slowly crawling up the hill. He has the staff in his hand, and he would say, I'm all right, but everybody's not doing well. And Amelia would run down to the RV and make sure that everybody's okay. And Joel would help Morgan up, and he would say, you all right, man? And Morgan would say, yeah, but we're not going to be able to make it back home. Everybody's in bad condition. We got to find a place closer to ride it out. And you would see John, and he would say, maybe the Gulch. It ain't that far away from here. We can ride it out for the night. And Morgan just kind of nods at this idea in a way of saying, okay, like maybe that's actually a decent idea. So then we cut to a little later and we see Morgan and the others and they're roaming the streets and they're walking in the woods, and we get to see that they're walking towards the gulch. They have left their vehicles just simply because they can't all stuff themselves inside of the SWAT vehicle. So they've decided that they'll double back later, but they just figured that it's a better idea just to get there now. So we see them all walking and they're all along the road, and we basically see the journey as we see a bit of a music montage. Now, they get to the gulch, and unlike the original version, in the original version, they were all just like, oh, like, we can't clear them, like, we're doomed. It's like, really, though? Like, come on, man. Honestly, Morgan's group, with everything they've gone through, and in particular in this version of Fear, I'm sorry, I have a really hard time believing that they would just be like, oh, yeah, no, we can't go in there, we can't clear it, what are we gonna do? Like, seriously, like, come on, man. So, basically, what would go down in this version, they would instantly see that the gulch is overrun, and they would just be like, oh, damn. And I would honestly have, I know it's pretty quick, but I would honestly have right away Alicia that would say, I think we can clear this place. Not wait around for a couple hours just to come to that conclusion that they can clear the place. No, I'm sorry. After just being attacked, yes, they're in bad shape, but I actually think it's pretty badass for a TV show to have, after everything they've just gone through, they're still just like, you know what? Screw it. We're going to clear this place no matter what. So that is exactly what they are going to do. So that is when we cut to Morgan and the others, and they are on horseback, and they are getting the walkers outside of the gulch, and we see them all going, and we see Morgan, we see John, we see June, we see Amelia, we see Dwight, and they are all on horseback, and they're all getting their way out of there. Now back at the gulch, you would still have Althea, and you would have Ashley, and they'd be, of course, there, and you would have them kind of searching through the gulch now that Morgan and the others are clearing it out. And Althea would basically ask, like, who are you? Like, where do you even come from? And Ashley would say, it's a long story. Me and my sister were taken by the Proctors. We were forced to work with them, and we were forced to join, and it wasn't a life worth living. Me and my sister, we were in such a bad way that at one point we even considered death. Just ending it real quick. And Althea would say, I'm sorry. No one should ever have to go through that. The Proctors are evil. And Ashley would say, oh, believe me, I know. And Althea would ask, do you know where your sister is now? And Ashley would say, we tried to escape together. I was the only one that got out. And Althea would say, your sister's still in there? In one of the settlements? And Ashley would say, she is. I hope. I just hope she's okay. I hope they didn't kill her. And Althea would say, well, I'm gonna believe for your sister. We have to believe. And then we see Ashley, and she walks outside of the building, and we notice Ashley puts on the walkie-talkie, and she decides to radio the Proctors. And she would say, Proctor John, do you copy? And you would see Proctor John, and he would pick up his walkie, and he would say, Ashley, wow, you're still alive. That's amazing. Man, my day is full of all kinds of surprises today. And Ashley would say, you need to stop. And Proctor John would say, stop what exactly? Morgan and the others, they're good people. You don't have to do this. You don't have to kill everybody, even though you think that you do. And Proctor John would say, so you're with the pacifists. Huh, go figure. That is not a surprise to me, Ashley. I will tell you, though. And Ashley would look slightly worried, and Proctor John would say, your sister has been giving us a hard time lately. Things have gotten so bad ever since you and her parted ways. She worked with us for a while, but after a bit, it was too much to handle. She became unhinged. And Ashley would say, please don't hurt her. And Proctor John would say, well, I'm afraid to tell you, but about a week ago, I had to handle things. And Ashley would look panicked, and she would say, what the hell is that supposed to mean? And Proctor John would say, all I can promise you, you're never going to see your sister again. Goodbye, Ashley. And he would sign off. And Ashley would say, no, please, wait, please. And Proctor John would not answer. And Ashley would start breaking down at the thought that maybe her sister has already been killed by the Proctors. Now, we see Morgan and the others, and they're on horseback, and of course, you got the zombie herd behind them. And basically, I would have in this version, which I think would definitely be really cool, and obviously in the original version, we had Daniel and Strand that split off from the group. In this one, I would have Amelia and Joel that would split off from the group, and they would go off, and they would kind of keep an eye on everything, while Morgan and the rest would lead the zombie herd away. And basically, Morgan and the others would all kind of go down, and of course, you would have, some really cool kind of scenes where they're leading the walkers away. And I actually really like this. I like when they're on the horses, and they're all kind kind of trying to, you know, lead them all away and kind of distract them and stuff. But obviously in this version, this is another thing that we've cut. Obviously Grace is not here with them in this version, which I really like. Not only is she not with the group in this version, but she's also not with Morgan on freaking horses while she's like basically at the time we thought near death. So that is another thing I wanted to kind of adjust in this scene. But basically I would also have in this one Dwight that gets attacked. I think it's actually some, you know, really good tension here. And basically Dwight would get attacked. He would have to flee from the horse. We would have a horse that would get killed, unfortunately, but we do have them that kind of lead the walkers through. Now, some really cool zombie kills here. I really dig this, and I think it's actually some really cool action, and I think it really worked well. Now, basically, you have Morgan and you have John and the others, and they all lead the walkers through, you know, the river and stuff, and you see the walkers kind of washed up. So definitely that I thought was really, really cool as well, too, and I think it's a really, really cool scene for the characters. But just when you think it's going well, just when you think everything's going well for the others, you would have Amelia and you would have Joel. And basically Amelia would be talking real quick. You would have a scene where she kind of talks about how she's worried about Dean and stuff like that. But unfortunately, the conversation is very quickly interrupted when they see through the binoculars that we get to see the Proctors are arriving on the road and they're on their way to the Gulch. And we get to see Proctor and the others pull over in this truck. And just like in the original version, obviously in the original version this was Virginia, but in this version it's the Proctors that are on their bikes, and they have a few trucks with them as well too. And obviously in the original version, the number one thing that kind of kept them from trying to attack the Proctors is that they noticed that Luciana was captured with them. But in this version, this is the difference. The version in this, we have Luciana that's with the Proctors, we have Dean that's captured, we have Daniel that's captured, and the big reveal, Grace has been found by the Proctors. And we get that reveal as we see that she's captured by the Proctors. And when Amelia and Joel see this, they absolutely panic and they try to radio Morgan. Now, obviously, after just seeing how many of the members that the Proctors have taken, we're still focusing on Morgan, and they think that they've succeeded. They think that they've led the herd away and that maybe they can actually, you know, take the Gulch for the night and actually relax. But that's when Amelia radios Morgan. And when Morgan finds out that they have Grace and that they have Luciana and they have Dean, we notice that Morgan has a very worried look on his face. So then we would cut back to everybody. They're all back into the Gulch, and we get to see Morgan, who's kind of doing a bit of a, you know, speech with everybody, and he's kind of saying like, they can kill us, but they can't make us forget who we are. They can try, they can play their games, they can do whatever the hell they want. We've come too far to give over now. And Alicia would say, we're outnumbered, Morgan. It's pretty clear. And what are we gonna do? Try to kill them and possibly hurt Luciana and the others in the process? They have an advantage over us. We need to all see that. And Morgan would say, we can't give up. I'm not letting these people win. And Alicia says, I don't mean win. I just mean that we can't go in there guns and blazing. They have a bunch of our people, Morgan. Almost half of our group is with them, for God's sakes. And John would look at Morgan and he would say, Morgan, it's your call. You want me to fire every bullet I have left in my gun today? I will do it. Or if you want me to save them, we can do that too. It's your call, my friend. And Morgan would just look stressed out because for the first time, he honestly does not know what to do. Now we would see Morgan and the others, it would be a little bit later, and they're all sitting in silence because they're all thinking that they've lost, and they're all thinking that this is all over for them. And then, as if things couldn't get any worse, we hear outside the church the Proctors, and we hear the bikes, and we hear the trucks that show up. And Morgan and the others look like they just have lost. Now Morgan steps out and he talks to Proctor John, and Proctor John would say, Morgan Jones, so we meet again. Tell me, were you always a stubborn prick? And Morgan would say, were your people always ruthless and heartless like yourself? Or did you make them that way? And Proctor John would say, oh, Morgan, you got guts, Morgan. I'll give you that. You grew the hell up from when the last time I talked to you. I'm impressed, but you see, Morgan, we've got jobs to do. And thanks to the excellent work of my man Victor Strand over here, and you would see Strand get out of the car, and he would look at Morgan and he would say, hi, Morgan. And Proctor John would say, thanks to him, we pulled this all together. And Morgan would say, you won. You did. But you should let us win too. And Proctor would say, well, you did kill Asher on the road and a whole crap ton of my men. And I'm a bunch of fighters short. I was gonna ask for Alicia. And we would see Alicia and she just looks annoyed. And Proctor John would say, but I think this might go a hell of a lot better, Mr. Jones. You have yourself a deal. And we're just sitting there, we're like, what the hell is this deal? And Morgan and them all look kind of scared because they're not really sure what Proctor John means and what tricks he's got up his sleeve next. And Proctor John would say, here we go, into an absolutely miserable future, Morgan Jones. We would cut to nighttime and we would get to see everyone is unfortunately getting separated by the Proctors. But we see Proctor John and Strand would say, why didn't you kill them? And Proctor John would say, I'm gonna test their wisdom a little bit more. And Strand would say, haven't they done enough to you? Shouldn't you just kill all of them? And Proctor John would say, if they give me a reason to, I still will. Alicia's a strong woman. Morgan Jones has proven to me that he's more capable than I thought. Someone that killed Asher? That's something different. I haven't seen a group like this before, and I'm gonna damn well hang on to them. Now, Victor, if you have a problem with that, I can take you with me, take you prisoner, just like I'm doing with them. It's your choice, Victor. And Proctor would say, you want to be a liar or do you want to succeed? And Victor would say, I always succeed, Proctor. It's in my nature. It's my calling. And Proctor would say, well, good. And he would say, load up. And then we would see everybody, they're all kind of getting taken into these vehicles and all that. And we get to see Morgan is just watching all of this happen. And then we have Grace that takes a moment to speak with Morgan. And Morgan would say, I'm so sorry for what they did to you. And Grace would say, it's not your fault. You tried to save your people. You're still a good leader, Morgan. I don't have a doubt in my mind. And Morgan would say, are you all right? Like, are you okay? And Grace would say, yeah, I'm fine. I will be fine. And Morgan would say, this isn't the end. And Grace would say, no, it's not. And then she would get taken away by one of the guys. And we get to see everybody getting separated. We see John and June. They're getting separated. We have John that says to June that he loves her. And we get to see everybody that's getting separated. And finally, we see Alicia that's about to head into one of these cars. And we have Victor that would say, there's more to this. And he would kind of just whisper to Alicia and he would say, we can do more damage from the inside. And Alicia would just kind of have a little bit of hope in her face because she would be like, so maybe Strand isn't fully a Proctor? And we can kind of tell that Strand seems very conflicted right now, and that's probably why he said we could do damage from the inside. So we'll have to see what Victor is going to do next. And finally, we would have all the vehicles that drive away and they're all getting taken to some of Proctor John's settlements. And we get to see Morgan. And we get to see that Morgan is obviously very, very depressed after seeing his whole group getting taken away from him. And just to top it all off, we have Proctor John that then says to Morgan, your people are going to be very useful for me if they turn out. And Morgan would say, so where are we going? And Proctor John would say, I told you before, I don't allow pacifists in my group. Now your group, they seem like they'll serve me good. But you, Morgan, I would have to keep my eye on you 24/7. I just know it. So it's better I just don't. And he would pull out his pistol and Morgan would seem kind of like on edge. And he would say, I have to protect my people. I have to make sure you don't kill any more of my men like you did today. And you led that slaughter. And Morgan would say, your people tried to kill us today. And he would say, yeah, to protect themselves, Morgan. And that is exactly what I'm gonna do now. Protect my people from whatever the hell you're supposed to be. And Morgan would try to stop it, but Proctor John would shoot Morgan and Morgan would go down. And as Morgan tried to whip Proctor John with the staff, Proctor would also go down on the ground. And Morgan and Proctor would be down on the ground and you would have Morgan that would be screaming out in pain as he has just gotten shot. And you see Proctor and he's going up to Morgan and you notice he's about to finish him off. And as he points the gun to Morgan, this is one difference I would do here. I would have the gun just simply be empty. It would just simply be empty and it would be like a moment of, damn it. And Proctor John would just look at Morgan and he would see that he's already bleeding out very bad. And Proctor John would say, I guess I'm gonna have to bet on the fact you're gonna die. But you know what, Morgan? This doesn't matter anymore. It's not what this is about. It's about the future. Just like you always said. Sadly, it's not going to be the future you wanted. And then he would get back on his bike and you would notice Proctor John drives off and leaves Morgan for dead. And Morgan would pick up the walkie as he goes up to the church. And we notice now what that opening scene was all about. And he would say, what we were doing out here, it wasn't just about doing right. It was about the future. So all of you, if you can hear me, just live. And we see some of the dead coming up towards him and he would say, just live. Post-outro credits, we have Morgan and he's waking up inside of the limousine. We get to see that his eyes are really, really red, and Morgan is waking up in this limousine, and we noticed a few of Proctor John's men are driving by on their bikes. And Morgan has to stay down to make sure that the Proctors don't spot him, so Morgan makes sure that he stays down so that they don't see him in the limousine. Once the Proctors drive far enough away, we focus on the limousine from outside. We focus on the outside of the limousine, and we notice spray painted on the limousine, "The end is the beginning." So that was Fear the Walking Dead, Season 4, Episode 16, You Can't Run. And this episode obviously remains the focus on Morgan as he tries to keep his group together as long as he possibly could. But unfortunately, with all the prisoners that Proctor John had, it just did not work. And unfortunately, Morgan, you can say, did kind of fail to lead his people through all of this. But we'll have to see if he can somehow claim his spot back. And unlike the original version, we did not end this on a cliffhanger. We did not end this on will Morgan die. We know going into the next season that Morgan is absolutely fine, but we're going to see how messed up he truly is after being left for dead. And we are going to have to see what that end is the beginning group thing is all going to be about. However, we are definitely going to see in the next season what life is like in Proctor John's settlements. And we're going to see what exactly the Proctors are like. And they are very evil people, and they are going to have some very crazy tactics to keep Alicia and everybody else in check for as long as they can. And we're definitely going to have to see what all these storylines are all going to build up to, what Proctor John is like, what Strand is going to do next season, and especially now that Asher and a lot of Proctor John's men were killed in this one, what is Proctor John going to think, and how is he going to treat Alicia and Strand and everybody else? And we can kind of tell that he even kind of questions Strand a little bit, so we'll definitely have to see how that all goes. We have a lot of new characters like Ashley and Amelia and all these people that are all going to be incorporated into this story, and we'll have to see how everything goes. So that is all of Fear the Walking Dead Season 4 rewrites. We will be back for Season 5 very, very soon. And until then, stay tuned because The Walking Dead Season 8 rewrites are coming up this Halloween. And until then, check out a new teaser for The Walking Dead Season 8 rewrites. Thanks for watching.
Your people crossed into our land. Your people killed our people. There will be conflict.